talk a little bit at the really broad level today about what applied learning is and what that means in the state and the nation and the world, and then really get down to the specifics of what your role is as the human beings and faculty members who've already been doing this work for 30 or 40 years, and how we can support that and how Potsdam fits into this sort of larger SUNY-wide umbrella. So as you know, SUNY is the largest system of higher education in the nation. We're cheating, we count our community colleges, so California is actually technically bigger, but we do have 500,000 students, 90,000 faculty and staff all over the state of New York. Very diverse and interesting population. You guys know different economic development challenges depending on where you are in the state, and it's really interesting to see your incoming freshman numbers and where those students are coming from. So diverse challenges and opportunities all over the place. I am from Troy, New York originally, and I went to St. Rose, got my undergraduate, and then went to SUNY Albany and got a master's and also a certificate in public policy administration. So my background is really in community-university partnerships and determining whether or not they're reciprocal from sort of the social justice orientation, women's studies background that I come from. So I have been working on applied learning I've been at SUNY for 3 years, I've been working on applied learning for about 2, and I'm just going to walk through what we consider to be applied learning and what that actually means for you all. So please bear with me as you hear things that you already know because you work in the pedagogy. So in 2010, when we got our Chancellor Nancy Zimper, she developed our SUNY strategic plan. As part of that strategic plan, we had these 6 big ideas. When I started working at SUNY, I was working specifically on SUNY in the vibrant community. So that encompasses service learning, community service, and then we added civic engagement. That's my background. That's the hill I'm going to die on. At the same time, we had an initiative called SUNY in the Seamless Education Pipeline, which still exists. So the education pipeline is the concept that we have the responsibility for all 500,000 students and what happens to them after they graduate from all of our campuses. So developing their citizenship, but also making sure that they have some kind of seamless transition into the workforce and who they'll be as human beings. Our SUNY Works initiative, so all of our co-op, internship, clinical placement, and practicum was under this bubble at the same time that I was working on SUNY in the vibrant community. So we decided that's a little bit crazy. Let's put those 2 things together because we all know this guy called John Dewey. And my best joke is that if I was going to get another, you might notice I have tattoos. If I was going to get another, it would just be John Dewey's face. So it gives people something to do, not something to learn. Learning by doing. We thought it was a little bit nuts that we were holding the education pipeline and SUNY the vibrant community separately. So we decided to put together all of our applied learning under one giant umbrella structure, which I'll show you in a minute. It's very well branded. You won't leave the room without knowing the umbrella very well. And we had to talk to the state and to our board of trustees and to our other audiences about why we want to do this. Why do we care about experiential and applied learning? And it's pretty well known, and we feel pretty confident in saying that it's a win for students. When students do any hands-on applied learning activities like undergraduate research with a faculty mentor, like service learning, like study abroad or long or short-term study away experiences, students who are engaged, they stay in school, they persist, they do well, they feel that they have a sense of community, and they're more likely to be hired into the places that they were working in internships. We know that you can use applied learning experiences as an intervention for keeping folks in school, for interacting with vulnerable populations who might not have made it to college. Folks in their family might not have come to college before. So we really deeply buy into the idea that this is a win for students. And it also turns out that it's how young people prefer to learn if you ask them. So this is some national data. We've also got a research report on our website that I'll share with you where we did focus groups with our students. And yes, it turns out if you ask them how they want to learn, they say, I want hands-on, on-the-job learning. At the end, it also does say that they don't like distance learning, but we're trying to make sure that experiential education is in all of our distance learning programs to try to shift that graph. We know that this is a win for employers, and I specifically think that in this region of New York and your specific rural concerns, that this is a huge win for the employers in the area, right? Not just employers that students are taking internships with, but all of your community partners, all of your arts and culture partners, all of the different populations that live on and around campus. We know that experiential and applied learning is about developing the competencies and skills of our students, and that we have a responsibility to do that. Go one step further, right, which is about not just responding to what employers want our students to have, but making sure that our students know how to eloquently express that they have gotten those competencies. So this is one of the interventions we have for making it really clear that we're developing those competencies for our students. Again, because our audience is sometimes the Board of Trustees in New York State, we talk about how this is a win for the economy because folks who are engaged tend to live and stay and work in New York, and I'm sure in Potsdam. So the umbrella structure, as I mentioned before, started with SUNY Works, which is co-op internship, SUNY SERS, service learning, community service, civic engagement. And when we developed our umbrella framework, we added in entrepreneurship, undergraduate research. Applied learning is really any of these things as long as it meets the minimum level criteria, right? Because we obviously cannot say everything counts. We are responsible for making sure that students have the learning outcomes that are associated with the classes and the activities that they're taking. But barring the fact that it meets our minimum level criteria, really all of this counts. So we want to be clear that if what you're doing in your class doesn't fit neatly into one of these buckets, ignore the buckets. There is value to what you're doing. We don't mean to leave it out. If I was going to share with you the laundry list of all the things that can count as applied learning, this would be a much longer presentation. So please just take the umbrella with a grain of salt. So as I said, SUNY Works, SUNY SERS, and SUNY Discovers. Our initial work in the SUNY Works internship project was supported with grant money from Lumina Foundation. We were able to get $800,000, and the Carnegie Corporation of New York gave us $500,000 to scale up this idea that for non-traditionally aged students, folks that were 25 or older, returning students, being in a cooperative education placement or an internship would decrease their time to degree. That was our premise. That's really what you might know the most about coming out of SUNY because it was grant funded. I put this slide up just to tell you that part of my job is to go after state and foundation funding to support the work that you're doing on campus. So we were successful in getting this funding and then creating sub-awards to campuses. And then some of the folks in the room are currently filling out white papers to apply for some money that SUNY is offering right now. So the applied learning framework, and again, please don't be marred by the fact that there's buckets. This is what everyone else in the field is doing plus some. There are high impact practices from the American Association of Colleges and Universities. There is experiential education frameworks all over the place, but this is a very specific initiative. Over the summer, was able to go to the Global Internships Conference, which was in Dublin, Ireland, and our initiative, the Chancellor's Initiative, was cited as the most ambitious in the world right now. I say that to show off because part of my job is to support the Chancellor and the Provost and to show off, but I also say that because Potsdam is really taking the lead in this, so it's important to me that you guys know that I didn't just drive here today to come and talk about this a little bit, that you are really the forerunners. You have the first endowed position for Director of Applied Learning, and you have an Applied Learning Center. So as I talk about SUNY and what we're doing nationally and internationally, I'm also talking about you and your work. So this is a much less pretty slide. What's happened to date? One of the reasons that this is a specific initiative and it doesn't just fit into what else is all going on in experiential ed and has been going on for 30 years is we were able to develop last year something called the Applied Learning Council. You've got some representation here on your campus. The Applied Learning Council is one person from each of the 64 campuses are on a council that advise me. So all of our work is done collaboratively. Every council member has a team on their campus. So we do not get out of talking about this without working collaboratively in teams. Those teams include students, faculty, professional staff, alumni, philanthropy, anyone on campus that has an interest in being on a team. You guys have one here. In addition, you'll be having a faculty think tank soon. So we're weirdos because we decided from the beginning that that it couldn't just be top down. It can be top down and that I can try to get money to support it, but that everything that comes out of SUNY needs to be reviewed by teams of people. Secondly, after the teams were created, we asked some questions of the campuses, which were, what parts of applied learning do you really see yourselves as exemplars in? What have you been working on forever and we never gave you credit for it? We'd like to hear about it now, and what commitments can you make in the next year around how we'll meet the Chancellor's goal of ensuring every SUNY student has the opportunity to take part in one of these experiences. So we had regional engagement meetings. I went to each of the 10 economic development regions in New York. I was physically in this room with folks on your campus when we had our meeting for the North Country. From those engagements, we were able to come up with the campus commitments. So I have a laundry list if you're ever interested in reading a 200-page document of what the common definitions that we use are, what the minimum level criteria for experiences are to ensure that students are getting the learning outcomes we want them to get, and what our campus commitments were. After that, so I had those meetings, I think, in April and May, and then May 5th or 6th, the Board of Trustees adopted a resolution so that SUNY System Administration and the Chancellor would make a plan for how the heck we're going to do applied learning. That plan encompasses individual campus plans. There was legislation that was enacted in the New York State budget in January, which led to this resolution happening, right? So our goal with this resolution is to support applied learning, but also to make sure that campuses have autonomous decision-making in terms of how you will do applied learning, in what ways you will require it of your students, and how you will manage and report that data. So board resolution is out and you can read it, and it's very wordy and scary. So to support work moving forward, we have developed a Provost Applied Learning Steering Committee. It's myself and then members of the University Faculty Senate, Faculty Council for Community Colleges, Student Assembly, and Distinguished Academy. That team has put together guidance. So we've put together common definitions, our minimum level criteria for what experiences should probably look like, and this is all based on national standards, nothing that we've made up. Guidance about George Kuhn high impact practices and how you might consider doing assessment. This bucket load of guidance is going to come out to campuses September 8th, so very soon, and I will get on the road and start working on that when I go home. And then campuses will have a few months to respond to those guidance documents and tell us whether or not they think that we're nuts. But really, you'll have a year and a half to develop your individual campus plan about applied learning. And all of that work will be done within your campus teams and utilizing all of the specific faculty work that you've done to date. Nobody gets out of this without working in teams. So that's really just an overview of what's going on at SUNY. We're very excited about it, and I'm very excited to come and have your president join me to speak to others about this initiative as we move forward. So how can you get involved? Really, I'm here to talk to you about how this work at the SUNY system is helping to promote resources for you guys here who are actually on the ground doing the work. So you've got Jenica Rogers and Toby White, who are my good friends, and you've also got Carolyn Downing, who I know, but we've all got friends here. If you're interested in being on the Applied Learning team, I'm sure many of you already are. They're your folks to go to. They have the 2-page campus commitment that you guys made, which I didn't want to read out loud to you. So first off, you're leaders in this, and you can seek help and information from the folks on your campus. But secondly, there are really some resources that you can use that are system-wide in case you're interested in specifically meeting with other faculty members throughout SUNY that are working on similar topics to you. So there's something called the SUNY Applied Learning Comments. This is what it looks like. I'll be sharing this as so you don't have to write down this information. I'll be sharing it when I leave. You'll get a document that literally has directions for how to get into it. As long as you have a SUNY email address, you're allowed to use this. So what we have here is just an open space on the Commons where there's a forum. If you've got questions, you can ask other people within SUNY. And there's also a documents list. So we've been able to put together just general resources through New York Campus Compact and through all of the SUNY schools about service learning, general resources for curriculum development and resources that the University Faculty Senate have put together. So that is all here. I will send you information on how to get to it. This is our website. I told you you could see the umbrella a lot. Our website is a fascinating place where you can look at some long documents if you've got a lot of time to kill. So first, there's a research report that was done by the Rockefeller Institute of Government that compares the SUNY initiative to other states and nations. So this is a really great overview of what we consider to be applied learning and how we stack up to places like Northeastern and like Australia or the Universities of Applied Sciences in Sweden. There's also something that I think is really meaningful. Examples of types of applied learning that occur at every single campus in each of the subsections. So there's an example from Potsdam in the section on SUNY Works, SUNY Serves, and Discovers. And if you ever needed a coffee table book to explain that your students are already doing this, that's right here. I also mentioned that we had some information about what how SUNY students feel about applied learning. So we did a case study that looked at 4 campuses and through interviews determined what students felt about applied learning, mostly finding that it helped them build a sense of community, that they enjoyed it. And then lastly, there is an online course that was developed by these campuses working together, which is available to you for free. It's open licensed. So essentially there are modules that walk a student through professional skills development, and you can take those modules and use them as you like. Oswego is offering this course for credit starting, I believe, tomorrow. Many of the other campuses are also doing that. So through the career development officers groups, we've developed this, but this is open to all faculty staff throughout SUNY for free for you to use as you would like. So I'll share how to get to those resources so you don't have to actually write all that down. But the website is suny.edu/applied-learning. The other thing that I think will be really interesting is when the guidance comes out, there are 2 documents. One is called the SUNY Internship Guidebook, which has quite a lot of information about partnerships and internships and how to work collaboratively on campuses. And another is called the Service Learning Toolkit. So both of these documents came out in 2008. They're being revamped right now, and those will be available to you guys. So that's who I am. I couldn't be more proud to drive 4 hours and hang out with you at lunch today. And I tried to go as quickly as I could to leave some time for question and answer, but I think that generally what they wanted me to tell you is, yes, there's a director of applied learning at SUNY. We really care about this. In fact, I meet and update the chancellor regularly, and I also report up through the provost. So on both sides of the house, this is something we care deeply about, and at least are invested in talking about for the next year and a half. And I'm always trying to get you guys more money for it, and I know that that's what Jenica's working on right now. It's also part of, if you, we're just not getting away from it, right? So it's part of our completion agenda efforts. Applied learning is part of our SUNY Excels metrics as well. So it's sort of, I work on wrangling cats to support this work in any ways that I can, but this work permeates all the other things that are coming out of system administration that are not particularly owned by my office. So I'm open to any kinds of questions. Yes?
I'm a little confused about the funding stream.
Yeah.
Is it going to start out with grants and then so forth, soft money right now, and then eventually be funded through SUNY Central?
So it's all campus specific. What we've been able to do is get enough support to speak about it out loud, and then I am able to get foundation funding. Usually that foundation funding is very specific. So when we were getting money from Lumina Foundation, it was people over 25 decrease their time to degree, right? For Carnegie, it was a little bit more specific. So there's a grant out from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. That's money that's specifically for outcomes of students that have taken internships. Like, what's their first destination survey? So I'm trying to get money in all of those pockets. Part of that is get a large chunk of money and share grants to campuses. Part of that is share with campuses and faculty specifically when it's appropriate for you guys to go after some funding. A lot of NSF and NIH funding is around community engagement in some of the methodologies that you already use, are becoming more prominent in those funding streams. But the funding stream from SUNY is, my office exists just to support this work and these good ideas. Over the next year and a half, it's really going to be about making these campus plans. Jenica and Toby, do you want to come up, or does everyone already know you?
Stand up and say a few things.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could speak to, very briefly, the commitment that you made. And I don't know if you want this guy.
Hi, everybody. And where's Kristen? I saw Kristen come. There you go. So Elisa's worked less with Krista, but Krista Levac is another piece of the Center for Applied Learning and International Education as well. So just recognizing that she is here as well. The Center for Applied Learning was created out of the Dorff Endowment, which we secured last year. It's $1 million endowment. It produces somewhere around $40,000 a year in spendable income. They also gave us a $50,000 upfront gift that we are using to fund what I like to call the Yes Fund, because I want to be able to say yes to interesting ideas. The president has talked about applied learning on this campus as being a win-win for faculty and students, in that what applied learning does is provide these opportunities for students to learn in different, creative, meaningful ways. But what we also see is that it's an opportunity for faculty to teach and mentor and coach in meaningful, significant, interesting ways, to do things you wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to do. So, $1 million endowment to support that work. I'm excited about it. I think
Funding structure.
yeah, there's our funding structure. It's also not, I don't believe the paperwork has been signed, but there is another pledged gift that will produce an additional $10,000 in income for the Center for Applied Learning annually. So I don't want to talk about that too much because I'm not sure the paperwork is in hand by the college, and I don't want to talk about something I shouldn't, but that's another thing that we're very excited about. Advancement is seeking out additional alumni who think this is a great idea, who want to participate as mentors, who want to work with classes, who want to provide a site for you to do field work, who want to come visit classes and be an expert collaborator. I don't know. We'll figure out what that means as we figure out what faculty want to do, what our alumni can support, what's it going to cost, what do we have available. We are, as part of the president's initiatives around diversity, we needed to, as she said, the Center for Diversity is expanding. Those of you who were at this morning's convocation heard that in the speech. We heard about it in the fall, or spring, where are we? And as part of that, one of the things that needed to happen was a rearrangement of space in Sisson. And so we then combined two campus initiatives. So the Center for Diversity is expanding, but we're also creating a Center for Applied Learning, which created the space, essentially, for that expansion. Because Experiential Education, International Education, and the Center for Student Research are all being combined into the Center for Applied Learning in a new purpose-built space in Crum Library. It will be adjacent to Minerva's, where the LTEC has previously been housed. Because at the same time, we are finishing a faculty development center space in Crum and moving the LTEC director's office over into that space, where we will have our online learning LTEC services, all of at the Information Technology Center. Paula Willard is moving over. So we're starting to build this network of resources to help you teach the way you want to teach, with the resources you want to use to teach. And I am very, very, very excited to get started on the fun part of the work. We spent our summer doing a lot of planning, a lot of talking about who we are, what we do, where our challenges are, what are our opportunities. And now that you are all coming back and the students are returning, we can start doing the fun part. And I'm really very excited about that. We have the Applied Learning Advisory Team, which we convened of mostly administrators of programs that have direct applied learning impacts, the associate deans, the programs that have the student teaching coordinators, the internship coordinators from community health and music business, places where we have requirements about these things, to do what SUNY needed done. And we'll use that group for administrative purposes. But hoping by the end of the day today, I will have sent an email to Diane Brown asking her to please invite a list of faculty and staff to be the Applied Learning think tank. I've been sort of batting that around all summer, and as we've talked about it more and more people have volunteered, and so I need to just finalize the list and get it done. And that's the group that we're going to challenge to think about interesting things like, how do we mandate and measure self-reflection in every applied learning exercise? How do we appropriately compensate faculty for their time and energy working as mentors with our students in applied learning models, knowing that I can't say all of a sudden I have $300,000 to do that with, right? I mean, we have to think creatively about what's going to work for this institution, and I want that to be driven by our faculty. So that's the group that's going to do it, I hope.
And just to bring it back full circle, and then I can stop talking. These are issues and struggles and concerns that we have everywhere. But you guys, with the School of Music and with how many folks are engaged in creative experiences and know that that's what your students want, really far ahead of the game. And so as we figure these things out, we're not figuring it out alone. We're working with other states and campuses, but you're in a fantastic place. And so now what we need to figure out is how do we move forward with this by thanking the people who've already been doing it for a long time, and not pretending that we just made it up overnight, not pretending that we developed service learning. But how do we move forward, making sure that students and faculty have these opportunities that doesn't happen on the backs of people who are already overworked. So as part of the campus plan, we're going to talk about faculty and student engagement. What role does the student play in all of these opportunities too? So much more to come, and I'll keep you updated through the processes that we've already got going, but this should not be the last that you're hearing from me, especially in the next few weeks. And I'm happy, I'll send out my personal information and email address, and feel free to contact me with any specific questions or ideas or concerns. That's what we've been doing for the past 2 years, and it seems to have been working pretty well.
Yeah. And just as one further small addendum, when Elise said that getting additional funding is what I was doing right now, she meant that literally. I'm sitting in the back of the room finishing a white paper for SUNY asking for money to support some innovative modeling and testing of new ideas, to support, one of the things I'm specifically asking for is funding to support faculty course releases or stipends so that people can have the time to experiment with new models in a thoughtful way, rather than simply saying, okay, join my think tank and do lots more work. I'm looking for ways to make this sustainable for our campus. So we're going to keep trying. I'm going to keep writing.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.